As the first light of dawn spreads across New York Harbor, a young city slowly comes to life. The year is 1800, and New York is still a modest colonial port, far removed from the towering skyline the world knows today. Wooden sailing ships rest quietly along weathered docks, their masts rising above the morning mist. These vessels carry goods, news, and travelers from Europe, the Caribbean, and ports throughout the growing United States, making the harbor the city's lifeline. Beyond the waterfront, narrow dirt streets wind between rows of wooden homes. Smoke curls gently from stone chimneys as families wake to begin another day. There are no engines, no electricity, and no towering buildings, only the sounds of horses, wooden wagon wheels, church bells, and the voices of neighbors greeting one another. As the morning sun climbs higher, the city begins to stir. Fishermen row into the harbor while merchants unlock their shops. Farmers arrive from the countryside with fresh vegetables, grain, and livestock. Bakers pull warm loaves of bread from brick ovens, filling the streets with the comforting aroma of fresh bread. Inside blacksmith workshops, glowing iron is shaped into horseshoes, tools, and that keep the growing city moving. Every craftsman, sailor, merchant, and laborer plays a part in building a community that is rapidly becoming one of America's most important centers of commerce. Though small by modern standards, New York in 1800 is full of promise. Each sunrise marks another step in the remarkable journey of a city destined to become one of the greatest in the world. As the morning continues, the streets of New York grow steadily busier. Along the waterfront, fishermen display the day's catch while butchers, farmers, and merchants prepare their stalls for eager customers. Every marketplace becomes a meeting place where neighbors exchange news, goods, and opportunities. In 1800, commerce is not confined to grand buildings. It happens face to face, in the open air, where trust and reputation are as valuable as money itself. Skilled craftsmen are found on nearly every street. Coopers build sturdy wooden barrels that protect food and cargo during long voyages. Shoemakers carefully stitch durable leather boots by hand, while tailors measure and sew clothing designed to last for years. Nearby, the ringing sound of a blacksmith's hammer echoes through the neighborhood as glowing iron is transformed into tools, horseshoes, and hardware essential to everyday life. Carpenters shape timber into furniture, wagons, and homes, using little more than experience and simple hand tools. Every trade depends on patience, precision, and generations of knowledge passed from master to apprentice. Nothing is mass-produced. Every object reflects the skill of the craftsman who created it, making each workshop an important part of the city's growing economy. Outside, horse-drawn wagons carry barrels, grain, firewood, and fresh produce through crowded streets. Mail riders deliver letters that connect families, businesses, and distant communities. Children laugh as they play in open spaces, while neighbors gather around public wells to collect water and share stories. Daily life moves at a slower pace, shaped by the rhythms of nature rather than machines. By afternoon, church squares and busy streets are filled with conversation, music, and the sounds of honest labor. Merchants continue trading, craftsmen remain at work, and families go about their routines beneath the warm summer sun. Together, these ordinary moments reveal the true character of New York in 1800, a hard-working community whose people laid the foundation for one of the world's greatest cities. As the afternoon settles over New York, the rhythm of daily life continues throughout the growing city. The ringing of church bells echoes across the neighborhoods, marking the passage of time for merchants, craftsmen, families, and travelers alike. For many residents, the church is more than a place of worship. It serves as the heart of the community, where neighbors gather, friendships are strengthened, and important news is shared. Communication moves much more slowly than it does today. Every letter is carried by horseback or wagon, often traveling for days or even weeks before reaching its destination. The arrival of a post rider is an important event, bringing personal letters, government documents, and business correspondence that connect New York with the rest of the young nation. Information spreads through another remarkable invention of the era, the printed newspaper. Inside small printing shops, skilled craftsmen carefully operate hand-powered presses, producing each page one sheet at a time. Soon afterward, newspaper sellers carry the latest headlines through the streets, offering citizens news from nearby towns, distant ports, and the halls of government. Music also fills the streets. A lone violinist performs in the marketplace, creating moments of joy amid the constant activity of trade and commerce. Children gather to listen, while shoppers pause briefly before continuing with their daily routines. These simple performances remind us that entertainment in 1800 depended not on technology, but on human talent and shared experiences. Across the neighborhoods, everyday life unfolds at a gentle pace. Women draw fresh water from public pumps, exchanging conversations while completing household chores. Children invent games using little more than wooden hoops and handmade cloth balls, transforming dusty streets into places of laughter and imagination. As the afternoon progresses, families begin preparing for the evening. Outside their homes, several generations gather together, sharing stories, repairing tools, weaving baskets, and preparing food for supper. Skills and traditions are passed naturally from parents to children, preserving knowledge that has shaped communities for generations. Throughout the city, every moment reflects cooperation, craftsmanship, and resilience. Whether delivering mail, printing newspapers, making music, or caring for family, the people of New York are building more than a city. They are creating the foundation of a society that will continue to grow and flourish in the centuries to come. Beyond the busy docks, life aboard every merchant ship demanded constant discipline and teamwork. Before each voyage, sailors carefully inspected the rigging, repaired worn sails, and secured every rope that would carry them across the Atlantic. Below deck, barrels of fresh water, salted meat, flour, and other essential supplies were packed tightly for journeys that could last for many weeks. Inside the captain's cabin, every voyage was planned with great care. Using little more than handwritten charts, a magnetic compass, and years of experience, captains navigated vast oceans long before modern technology existed. Every decision at sea could determine the success of an entire expedition. As preparations came to an end, ships slowly departed New York Harbor, their towering sails catching the wind as they sailed toward Europe, the Caribbean, and other American ports. The harbor gradually disappeared beyond the horizon, but its influence stretched across the Atlantic through trade, commerce, and human ambition. By day and by night, these wooden sailing ships carried more than cargo. They carried ideas, opportunity, and the future of a growing nation. Long before New York global metropolis, its greatest strength had already been found on the open sea. As the morning sun rises over New York Harbor, the waterfront comes alive with purpose and determination. In the year 1800, this harbor is already becoming one of the busiest and most important ports in the United States. Every tide brings new opportunities, connecting the young nation with distant shores across the Atlantic Ocean and beyond. Tall wooden sailing ships arrive from Europe, the Caribbean, and other American ports, carrying valuable cargo that fuels the city's rapid growth. Their towering masts dominate the skyline, while experienced sailors climb high into the rigging to prepare for docking. Every arrival represents weeks, and sometimes months, of careful navigation across unpredictable seas. Along the wooden piers, dockworkers begin unloading barrels, crates, sacks of grain, coffee, sugar, tobacco, spices, and fine textiles. Without machines or engines, every piece of cargo is moved by human strength, teamwork, and simple mechanical systems of ropes and pulleys. The harbor is filled with the sounds of creaking timber, rolling barrels, and the steady voices of workers coordinating each task. Nearby warehouses quickly fill with imported goods waiting to be distributed throughout New York and the surrounding countryside. Merchants carefully inspect every shipment, comparing handwritten ledgers with cargo manifests before goods continue their journey into the growing city. Horse-drawn wagons stand ready to transport supplies from the waterfront to markets, workshops, and businesses across town. Beyond the docks, trade never truly stops. Markets display coffee, tea, spices, tobacco, and fine fabrics brought from distant lands, offering local residents a glimpse of the wider world. Captains gather over hand-drawn charts, planning future voyages that will carry both cargo and opportunity across thousands of miles of open ocean. Inside counting houses overlooking the harbor, clerks record every shipment with ink and quill, while skilled craftsmen repair barrels, sew heavy canvas sails, and prepare vessels for their next departure. Every profession plays a vital role in keeping the remarkable port operating day after day. As the afternoon reaches its busiest hours, ships continue arriving while others prepare to leave for distant destinations. Hundreds of workers, merchants, sailors, and craftsmen move together with remarkable efficiency, creating an economic engine unlike any other in the young republic. Long before towering skyscrapers defined New York's skyline, it was this harbor that shaped the city's destiny. Here, on these wooden docks beside the Hudson River, the foundations of one of the world's greatest trading cities were quietly being built, one ship, one voyage, and one hard-working day at a time.
In the year 1800, New York was a city filled with ambition, but its true strength could not be measured by its busy harbor or growing trade. It was found inside the homes of ordinary families, where each new day began long before the sun rose above the East River. As the first light appeared over the city, families stirred from their sleep. Fires were carefully lit in brick fireplaces, filling the rooms with warmth against the cool morning air. Mothers prepared simple breakfasts over open hearths while fathers gathered tools for another day of labor. Children were expected to help from an early age, carrying water, feeding animals, sweeping floors, or collecting firewood before the day's lessons began. Most homes were modest, built from wood or brick with steep roofs and small windows. Their furnishings were handmade by local craftsmen, and every item served a practical purpose. There were no factories producing endless supplies, so every chair, table, blanket, and candle represented hours of careful work. Nothing was wasted, and repairing broken belongings was simply a part of everyday life. Family was the foundation of society. Parents taught not only practical skills but also honesty, discipline, and responsibility. Grandparents often shared stories of earlier generations, passing down traditions that connected the past with the future. Children learned through observation, copying the habits and values of the adults around them as they prepared for their own roles in the community. Beyond the front door, neighbors formed an equally important part of daily life. The streets of Lower Manhattan were filled with familiar faces. People greeted one another warmly, exchanged local news, and stopped to offer help whenever it was needed. Whether repairing a fence, raising a new building, or assisting a family during difficult times, cooperation strengthened every neighborhood. Throughout the morning, the sounds of skilled craftsmen echoed across the city. Blacksmiths shaped glowing iron into tools and horseshoes. Carpenters measured timber with remarkable precision, building homes that would shelter growing families. Tailors stitched clothing by hand, while coopers crafted sturdy barrels that carried food and goods throughout the harbor. Every profession supported another, creating a city where success depended on shared effort. Women carried enormous responsibilities within the household. They baked bread, prepared meals, preserved food for the winter, spun cloth, repaired clothing, cared for young children, and managed countless daily tasks that kept the home running smoothly. Though their work often remained unseen, it formed the quiet foundation upon which every family depended. By midday, the neighborhoods reflected a steady rhythm of work, learning, and cooperation. Every family, every craftsman, and every neighbor contributed to a city that was steadily growing stronger with each passing year. As the afternoon sun drifted lower across the rooftops of New York, the pace of the city slowly began to change. Merchants finished their business, craftsmen put away their tools, and families made their way home through the narrow streets. Another productive day was coming to an end, but the work of the household was far from over. Inside their homes, evening meals were prepared with great care. Families gathered around simple wooden tables to share fresh bread, vegetables, salted meat, and whatever seasonal foods were available. Supper was more than a meal. It was a time to reconnect, discuss the day's events, and prepare for tomorrow's responsibilities. Parents listened to their children, offered guidance, and reminded them of the values that shaped a strong and honest life. After dinner, children found a few precious moments to enjoy themselves. They rolled wooden hoops, played simple games, or laughed together in the quiet streets before darkness settled over the neighborhood. Their toys were handmade, their games were simple, and their happiness came not from possessions but from imagination and friendship. As daylight faded, candles and oil lamps became the city's only source of light. Their warm glow shone through small windows, giving every street a peaceful and welcoming atmosphere. Inside, some families repaired clothing, others read from the Bible, while many simply gathered around the fireplace to tell stories that had been passed from one generation to the next. These quiet evenings strengthened the bonds between parents, children, and grandparents. Outside, a night watchman walked slowly through the streets carrying a lantern and a wooden staff. His presence reminded everyone that the safety of the community depended on shared responsibility. Along the waterfront, merchant ships rested gently with the tide, their crews preparing for another voyage when morning arrived. Although New York in 1800 was still a relatively small city, the character that would one day make it famous was already taking shape. It could be seen in hard-working families, skilled craftsmen, caring neighbors, and children learning the values of perseverance and responsibility. The history of New York was not built only by famous leaders or successful merchants. It was written every day inside modest homes, along quiet streets, and within communities where ordinary people supported one another through hard work, faith, and determination. Those simple moments created a strong foundation, allowing a young city to grow into one of the most influential cities the world has ever known. As the 19th century began, New York was becoming more than a thriving port and commercial center. It was also a city where faith, education, and community shaped the lives of thousands of ordinary people. While ships carried goods across the Atlantic and merchants built new fortunes, the city's true character was formed by the values shared within its churches, schools, and neighborhoods. Sunday was the most peaceful day of the week. The noise of workshops and marketplaces faded as families dressed in their best clothing and walked together through the quiet streets toward church. Bells echoed across Lower Manhattan, calling worshipers to gather for prayer, reflection, and fellowship. Churches served not only as places of worship but also as important centers where neighbors met, exchanged news, and strengthened their sense of community. Inside the church, candlelight illuminated wooden pews as ministers spoke about faith, honesty, humility, and responsibility. These lessons reached beyond religion. They encouraged people to live with integrity, to care for one another, and to contribute to the growing city through hard work and compassion. Education was becoming increasingly important. Although schools were simple by modern standards, parents understood that reading, writing, and arithmetic opened new opportunities for the next generation. Young students practiced their lessons with slate boards, quill pens, and handwritten books, while teachers patiently guided them through every exercise. Learning did not end inside the classroom. Apprentices worked beside experienced craftsmen, mastering trades such as carpentry, blacksmithing, tailoring, and shipbuilding. Every skill was passed directly from one generation to the next, ensuring that knowledge and craftsmanship continued to grow with the city. In New York, education was never separated from daily life. Whether inside a schoolroom, a family home, or a busy workshop, every lesson prepared young people to become responsible citizens and skilled workers. These quiet investments in knowledge would help shape the remarkable future of the city. Beyond work and education, New Yorkers also found time to enjoy music, conversation, and community gatherings. Entertainment in 1800 did not depend on technology. Instead, it was created by talented musicians, storytellers, dancers, and neighbors who came together to celebrate everyday life. In busy public squares, violinists and small groups of musicians performed lively folk melodies that drew smiling crowds. Children gathered close to watch, while adults paused to enjoy the music before continuing their daily routines. These simple performances brought energy and warmth to the growing city. Local taverns were more than places to eat and drink. They served as meeting places where merchants, sailors, craftsmen, and travelers exchanged stories from distant ports. New ideas, business opportunities, and friendships often began around wooden tables illuminated by candlelight. Community dances and seasonal celebrations filled gathering halls with music and laughter. Couples performed traditional dances while neighbors clapped to the rhythm of fiddles and flutes. These joyful occasions strengthened relationships and reminded everyone that even during times of hard work, there was always room for celebration. Artists sketched the harbor, storytellers inspired young listeners with tales of distant voyages, and children played simple games using handmade wooden toys. Every activity reflected a society where creativity and human connection were valued as highly as commerce. As evening approached, neighbors gathered outside their homes to talk, exchange news, and enjoy the peaceful atmosphere before returning indoors. These daily conversations built trust, strengthened friendships, and created neighborhoods where people genuinely cared for one another. Together, these shared experiences formed the cultural heart of New York. Chapter 6 Part 3, approximately 250. The strength of New York was found not only in its growing economy but also in the willingness of its people to work together. Across the city, neighbors supported one another through cooperation, kindness, and shared responsibility. Volunteer firefighters stood ready to protect homes from dangerous fires, while local physicians traveled from house to house caring for families with the medical knowledge available at the time. Mail riders delivered handwritten letters that connected loved ones across great distances. Every letter carried news, hope, and reassurance in an age when communication depended entirely on horses and sailing ships. Receiving a letter from a distant family member was often one of the most meaningful moments of the month. As the day came to an end, families returned home and gathered around warm fireplaces. Parents read from the Bible, children listened to stories, and grandparents shared memories that connected generations. Candlelight filled each room with a quiet sense of peace as the busy streets gradually fell silent. Outside, a night watchman walked slowly through the dark streets carrying a lantern, watching over the sleeping city. In the harbor, merchant ships rested gently upon the water, ready to begin another voyage with the coming sunrise. Above them, the stars stretched across the night sky, reminding every resident that tomorrow would bring new opportunities. By the year 1800, New York had already become much more than a colonial settlement. It was a city built upon faith, education, culture, and the enduring spirit of its people. These values created strong families, vibrant neighborhoods, and a united community prepared to face the challenges of a new century. The story of New York was written not only in government buildings or busy ports, but also in classrooms, churches, workshops, homes, and public squares. It was the everyday lives of ordinary people that gave the city its identity and laid the foundation for the extraordinary future that was still to come. As the 19th century began, New York stood at the edge of a remarkable future. Once a small colonial town, it was rapidly becoming one of the most important cities in the young United States. Every street, harbor, and neighborhood reflected the energy of a city preparing for a new century. Each morning, merchant ships arrived from distant ports carrying goods, ideas, and new opportunities. Along the waterfront, dockworkers unloaded cargo while merchants planned new ventures that would expand trade across the Atlantic. Commerce fueled the city's steady growth and created opportunities for families, craftsmen, and entrepreneurs alike. Beyond the harbor, New York continued to expand. Carpenters raised new homes, blacksmiths forged tools, and skilled craftsmen worked to meet the needs of a growing population. Streets slowly stretched northward as new neighborhoods appeared, each adding another chapter to the city's remarkable story. Young apprentices learned valuable trades from experienced masters. Every lesson strengthened the workforce and prepared the next generation to build an even greater city. Markets grew busier as farmers, merchants, and artisans exchanged the products of their hard work, reflecting a community filled with confidence and ambition. Yet New York's greatest strength was never found in commerce alone. It lived within its people. Families built homes with hope for a better future. Neighbors helped one another through daily challenges. Churches, schools, workshops, and public squares united the community through faith, education, and shared responsibility. As evening settled over Lower Manhattan, church steeples overlooked busy streets while merchant ships rested quietly in the harbor. Warm candlelight shone through windows as families gathered together after another productive day, preparing for tomorrow's opportunities. Few people living in New York in 1800 could have imagined what the future would bring. They could not foresee a city of millions or one of the world's leading centers of finance, culture, and innovation. Yet the foundation of that future was already taking shape through the determination of ordinary people. Every stone placed by a mason, every beam raised by a carpenter, every lesson taught in a classroom, and every voyage launched from the harbor carried New York one step closer to its destiny. The story of New York did not begin with greatness. It began with hard-working families, skilled craftsmen, courageous sailors, and determined merchants who believed tomorrow could be better than today. As the sun rose over New York in the year 1800, a new century was just beginning. The city stood ready to grow, to inspire, and to leave a lasting mark on history. The future had already begun.